Welcome back to the channel. We're going to dive into this today. We got Kristofer Goldsmith, and this is titled Nick Fuentes Scared After Evidence Points to Potential Groyper Connection in Charlie Kirk Murder. So we're going to hear out what this man has to say. Don't laugh at my headphones. Once again, I broke them. So, I had to, I'm old school. I try to tape it. I'm going to go buy some new ones soon, but I try to hold on to things and fix them. But with that being said, shout out to my subscribers. We're smoking all my dragons, divine, righteous, almighty, greats, overachieving, never slacking. And we're going to hop right into this. Here we go.
Charlie Kirk was just taken out by a meme-obsessed, radicalized young white man. And Nick Fuentes is getting nervous. Fuentes just rushed to issue statements condemning his followers who ever pick up weapons, which tells me that he knows that eyes are on him right now. To understand why this matters, you need to know about Charlie Kirk's long feud with Nick Fuentes and his so-called Groyper Army. Back in 2019, Fuentes' followers, the Groypers, they launched what became known as the Groyper Wars. They targeted Kirk and his organization, Turning Point USA. At public events, they would heckle him, disrupt his speeches, and they accused him of being a sellout. Their issue? They thought that Kirk was too soft, too establishment, too willing to play politics.
So pretty much bullying each other, harassing each other, bullying each other. Ridiculous. The same thing that someone like Nick would pretty much accuse other communities of doing. Not saying that there's not bad people amongst other communities, but that seemed to be the basis and the foundation of what these people be preaching in order to make themselves look like they're doing something righteous or standing for something righteous. Whole time they're doing this same thing.
Instead of going full white nationalist like Fuentes and the Groypers. Kirk, through Turning Point USA, represented the institutional face of MAGA youth organizing. Pro-Trump, but still within the guardrails of mainstream conservatism. Fuentes positioned himself as the authentic voice of the far right, pushing conspiracy theories like the Great Replacement conspiracy theory, and openly trafficking in anti-Jewish hate. And doing that, he built a cult around himself. The Groyper Wars were about who would control the next generation of far-right activists. Now, evidence suggests that Kirk's assassin might have been a Groyper, a follower of Fuentes. That's why Fuentes was quick to put out a statement condemning the violence, because he knows he's in the spotlight. He knows that law enforcement, the media, and the Republican Party, the MAGA Republican Party, are watching. Here's where Trump comes in. Trump has always relied on Kirk as one of his most loyal propagandists. But he's also openly flirted with Fuentes, meeting him after January 6th, refusing to fully denounce him, and letting figures like Laura Loomer, who's allied with Fuentes, stay close. Trump thrives on playing both sides of this really dangerous coalition.
Hold on, so he just mentioned, who was it, Laura Loomer, right? Let me just pull something up real quick, right? Because it was something I seen with her the other day that she had posted about 2 weeks ago, where she pretty much was saying that she said she don't ever want to hear Charlie Kirk claim he is a pro-Trump ever again after this weekend. That's 2 weeks ago, by the way, if I didn't say that already. I'd say he has revealed himself as a political opportunist, and I've had a front row seat to witness the mental gymnastics these last 10 years. Lastly, Charlie has decided to behave like a charlatan claiming to be pro-Trump one day while he stabs Trump in the back the next. I'm going to stop there and just say, yeah, that's... They clearly, everything ain't all rainbows and sunshine over there. Of course, now that, Charlie, is now resting, of course, everybody's probably gonna act like, I'm sure the first thing they did was blame the liberals and this and that, and then it turned out to be, what wasn't someone so-called black, wasn't someone Muslim, wasn't someone trans, wasn't an immigrant. What it was, Charlie was taken out by his own. That's a hard pill to swallow, huh?
The result is a cycle of violence. Kirk normalized political violence through Turning Point USA and promoting dangerous conspiracy theories about things like a stolen election in 2020. While both Kirk and Fuentes have pushed dangerous conspiracy theories that inspire vigilantes and people who go into shopping malls, movie theaters, Walmarts, schools, and do terrible things, Kirk had only in the last few years really started to lurch much further to the right, to get closer to Fuentes. And Trump benefits from both streams of loyalty, no matter how bloody the consequences. What do we do now? We make sure that MAGA's attention stays focused on Fuentes. We keep the wedge open. Every Republican politician should be forced to answer, do you stand with Nick Fuentes? Or will you denounce him and impose real, serious legal consequences on him, his movement, and his allies like Laura Loomer, who still has regular access to the President of the United States, Donald Trump? Our objective here is clear. Keep MAGA's rage turned inward, so it doesn't fuel more vigilante or state-enforced violence against vulnerable communities. If we can drive that wedge, we can buy time and space to keep organizing, keep protecting our neighbors, and keep building the anti-fascist resistance for the long haul. And don't forget to remind MAGA at every opportunity that Kirk was loudly and openly demanding the release of a certain set of records related to one of the world's most notorious.
Now, let me make this clear. I'm not part of any group. I would be considered an independent, but I'm not a part of any political side. I'm for the people. How about that, right? Without any type of label attached to it, which is hard, very hard for people to understand because nowadays this is gangland. Gangs aren't just a bunch of people in the street who are selling drugs and committing crimes in front of you or outside. Gangs are everywhere, right? And that's just the truth. There's organized gangs that are literally abide by the law, right? At least represent themselves as people who abide by the law, and whole time they're doing all type of stuff behind the scenes. But I say all that to say, I just want you to know there's no bias within me, right? When I look at these situations, because I don't belong to any political party or any side, or I don't claim that. I'm just an everyday person. I would be the true American, because and I say that to say, because like the unbiased for the people, like support independent business, like I would be the true American, homeowner, all that stuff that's tied to that. Not that I even care about that anymore, because the more I've accomplished, I've realized that's not how we're supposed to be anyway. And I say this to say, we as a collective should all be making life easier for each other. And right now it is a lot of war going on. It is the ugly stage of things. So for, you it just is what things have to happen like this sometimes for people to see the truth. When it comes to Charles Kirk, or Charlie Kirk, uh, I do believe that his death is going to already has sparked like a change within people. Even a lot of people within MAGA and things like that, because after it's gonna make a lot of people look in the mirror and say, "Damn, I got all this hatred, and I was ready to blame this and that and the third, but the whole time it's so some Republican or someone who's from a Republican family, and then it's like with Charlie, you literally seen him, the pendulum slowly changing another way, him changing another tune. As time went on, we don't know what that could have been. He could have dropped a lot of his old ideologies, and really shut his skin and started to blossom into something new over time. And whoever, whatever powers may be, I don't know, might have seen that, and people were clearly calling him out, saying that he's an opportunist, and he pretty much changes his tune. So I mean, there you go. Like, ain't no telling what he could have been. Waking up to it, to new things every day. His old self could have been dying, and it wasn't beneficial to whatever his handlers wanted him to do. That's what it sounds and looks like.
Notorious abusers of young girls and women, who is a personal and close friend of Donald Trump for years. To be clear, you should not believe these conspiracy theories that MAGA believes. But when and where you can cause discord between fascists, you should take that opportunity. This is just one of the ways that you can go on offense for democracy. Let them exhaust each other, distract each other, and weaken one another. Because if their hate is boiling inwards, it won't be boiling over to burn the rest of us.
Okay, so he had a
Political violence.
strong statement. Once again, that was Kristofer. Let me go back to his Kristofer Goldsmith. Original link in the description if you guys want to check out his channel. I always got to give credit where credit is due. And everybody should definitely have their opinion. But another thing is people have to also be responsible when it comes to the energy that they put out here, and realize that hate will find you. When you are raised right a certain way, it's still your responsibility to reprogram yourself from the hateful ways you might view the world, or from the superiority complex that you might developed over time, that causes you to only see the world from your view, like you're not seeing other perspectives, because you've been raised and molded to be a certain way. Now you put a bunch of big words and over that, and you use all this logic and intelligence, and you speak to statistics. Okay, that's cute, that's cool. But at the end of the day, that energy still gonna find you regardless, in some way, shape, or form. It's a lot of people out here that are very that have agendas. I put it like that, and they mask it in righteousness. This is how so many people were able to get pulled into the Ku Klux Klan, right? Because it's like, oh, all these, over in Chicago, all these black folks, they're taking the jobs and they're getting hired, and all these, it's the same story, all these people from here and here. And that's how they were able to, hey, come to the KKK, come to the Ku Klux Klan, hey, Irish, hey, we're all under, let's come under white power. I mean, it's the same, it's the same mindset. 19th century anthropologists teaching, people's brains are smaller and this and that and all these crazy lies. There's still a lot of people who believe in that. There's still a lot of people who are actually descendants of that, and have that hate. Now, when it comes to the crime within the so-called black communities, right, in urban areas, and of course that's an issue, but people need to look at the root. One thing I never noticed with a lot of these extreme like conservatives, and I never hear them really speak on like the root of, like, okay, what about the record labels? And I'm sure there's probably some out there that speak on it, but that should be the target. Like, Trump, you're friends with all the people who own these record labels that sign the youth, that then push, this destructive music to the communities. And when you're pushing that music to people who, what they say, the frontal lobe, logical side of your brain doesn't even develop till you're about 25. So when you're pushing that to the youth, right, people who already come from broken homes, people who already still got to figure out, like, all the guns and drugs, we're like, all this stuff, where'd it come from, right? But when you got all these people this youth, and you're pushing that, and you're using people to influence them, of course the crime's going to stay crazy, right? So, Trump, you're friends with, all these record label owners and these billionaires that are from completely different cultures, and just go and sign these so-called black kids, and, have them and give them big advances to go push toxic music out. Like, if you get what I'm saying, let's get to, like, why we're not getting to the root of the problem here. Because when you go back to, the days of Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma, what is now known as Lake Lanier, that was flooded out. Like, these were solid communities. The last elders that we do have, you'll hear them say that the communities were so tight knit and so safe. You can go and people were just looking out for each other. You could go and sleep on your neighbor's porch at 4 a.m. and be okay. So those communities have been destroyed, and a lot of these people distract others with hate, right? It's like with hate, as if as if an Irish didn't come over here getting off boats, getting bricks and stones thrown at them. Go back to Ireland, as if that didn't happen, as if Sicilians didn't have a large mass hanging in New Orleans and weren't discriminated against. So it's like, but when you can easily be manipulated to be a part of the club, like, here, look, but it's them, and we're the superior, and this and that, and, like, come on, people really fall for that, and it takes a very special person to reprogram the teachings and realize, oh, you know what, maybe my grandparents were wrong, maybe my parents were wrong, grandparents were wrong, maybe my maybe they were all just under this American spell. Ever think about that? So I'm gonna wrap that up right there. Let me know what you think in the comments. Original link in the description again, and much love to you all.